Today we're asking the question, are Dead Sea salts any good and should you be using them? Keep watching. So before we dive into the benefits of Dead Sea salts, let me just give you a little bit of background about the history and where these salts come from. It's really interesting. So the famous Dead Sea salts come from the Dead Sea, which is more of a lake. The Dead Sea is right in between Israel and Jordan. It's on the border between Israel and Jordan, and in fact if you take a boat from one end of the Dead Sea and try to cross it, you will actually go from one country to the next, and the border is somewhere midway through the lake. So that's a little fun fact. And the Dead Sea is actually the lowest point on Earth where you can actually go to. The lowest accessible point on Earth is 423 meters below sea level, and the Dead Sea is incredibly salty. It's 33% salt. So this is why you can do some really fun things, because it's so salty, the water is so buoyant. You can do fun things like, float on your back and read a newspaper. I'm sure you've seen these pictures of the Dead Sea, of people doing this, floating in their back, reading a paper or a book. So these salts are very famous for being incredibly beneficial for the skin specifically, and in particular inflammatory skin conditions. And by this I mean things like eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, conditions which cause dry, red, irritated skin, or with a very high skin turnover rate like in psoriasis. So these people will find may find Dead Sea salts incredibly beneficial, provided they buy a good brand with original Dead Sea salts. And the reason that we think Dead Sea salts are so good for inflammatory skin conditions is because they have a very unique and a very high percentage of special salts, things like magnesium, sodium, and so on. So some people think that because magnesium is really good at capturing water, that is the reason why Dead Sea salts are such brilliant moisturizers. And Dead Sea salts also have other chemicals and salts which suppress inflammation. So again, that's why they might be useful for people with inflammatory skin conditions such as eczema and psoriasis. This really surprised me, but apparently some people use Dead Sea salts to ease the side effects from chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is the treatment of cancer with oral medication, and it has lots of nasty side effects, and apparently some people use Dead Sea salts to get rid of or reduce the intensity of these side effects. That's what I didn't know about Dead Sea salts, and that's really good and really promising. I think people would benefit most from Dead Sea salts are people with inflammatory skin conditions such as eczema, psoriasis, dermatitis, and so on. These people really ought to try at least once and give it a chance and see if it works for them. People with normal healthy skin might also benefit from it. It might improve the appearance of the skin, it might improve the hydration, the moisture in the skin, but the people who get maximum benefit are the people who have the problems that I just mentioned. The most tricky part about using this product, from what I've read, is choosing the right brand. So the brands don't make it easy for the consumer to tell if the Dead Sea salt in their product comes from the Dead Sea. Some of them doesn't come from the Dead Sea, and they hide this fact with very clever language. Things like extracted from salts from the Dead Sea. So that doesn't mean that it's actually from the Dead Sea, is that they got salt from the Dead Sea and then they extracted their product from that product. So it's basically second hand. Or I've seen one where they said our salt is based on the same Dead Sea salts used in the spas in the Dead Sea area. So how do we know these spas in the Dead Sea area are using proper, they might be using rubbish Dead Sea salt, so you don't know. So you have to be very careful. You have to read the label and ask yourself, does it clearly say that this Dead Sea salt in this product comes from the Dead Sea, is not being touched or manufactured or diluted or processed? It's just from the sea straight into a bag and straight onto me. That is the best product that you can use for Dead Sea salt. And another possible downside might be the smell. I read a couple of reviews, I think one on Amazon and one on another website, where people complained about the smell. They said the smell of the brand they were using was really pungent, and they just had to stop using it because the smell was so strong. But honestly, that was, I think, 1 or 2 reviews out of hundreds. So it might be just a problem for that person. It might not be something that is widespread. But that's the end of the review. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button. Any comments or questions, please leave them below and I'll get back to you. Take care. Have a good evening.